Howdy, I'm Grey Pilgrim. Well, welcome back to my crazy world. Just a second here, I have a bit of a Shaggy Dog story to tell. So pull up a chair, grab something to drink, and let's get into it. What you're looking at here, let me get this straightened a little bit. Okay, what you're looking at here is a Vetterli model 1870/87/15. Now, why is it called a Vetterli with all that alphabet after it? Well, that's because it was built in 1870 in a 41-45 caliber, big old round that shot black powder. Now, everybody in Europe was using these things back then. Not this one, but long, big bore, 40-something caliber rifles, usually single shot. Dutch had the Beaumont, the Greeks had the Schauenhauer, and everybody was pretty well satisfied with them until the French came along in 1886 and developed smokeless powder and went to the small bore rifle instead and got better performance and longer range. Well, to my story, it's important because of who this was based on. Everybody decided to go with a different system. This was built in 1870. In 1887, they made it from a single shot to a 5-shot by having one in the chamber and 4 in a magazine. This is a Vetterli magazine. It was put onto the Dutch Beaumont and onto the Vetterli here. The Vetterli is a Swiss design, but this is Italian, and this was an Italian rifle. And they put this on. Well, that lasted a little while until 1915, when they decided to retrofit a bunch of these as a substitute standard for the Mannlichers that they were using. Well, they used Mannlichers, Mannlicher Carcanos. And because of that, they put this Mannlicher type magazine thing on it. Well, that is a magazine right there. This is a clip. Now, I don't have any clips for this. This uses a Carcano clip, but this is very similar. So is this. Okay, clips. Let me explain something about clips. This is a clip. This is for an M1 Garand. This is you feed it in, it goes bang, 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 and when it gets to the last one, it goes bang, and then it goes ching because it ejects this out of the top. These are also inboard clips. Forget what, I know this one's for a French Berthier, or Berthier, but I don't know what this was for. I can look it up, but it's incidental. And the way they work is you put them in and they sit inside the gun and they go bang, 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 bang. And on the Mannlicher system, when it gets to the last round, this trap door opens and this thing falls out, empty. The other kind of clip is called a stripper clip. This is a stripper clip for an SKS. You have it loaded full of bullets, sit it on top of the gun, and use it to strip the rounds down into the gun and then throw this away. This or this are magazines. Do not confuse them. Okay, got that? Now, why am I telling you this? Well, let's get back up here. Oh, there. Today is the 22nd of November, 2023. Why is that important? Because, dear friends, 60 years ago today, people are not talking about it, but 60 years ago today, John F. Kennedy was shot. Well, according to all the myths and stories, he was shot by this loner named Lee Harvey Oswald, who was working in the book depository building in Dallas. And when the Kennedy motorcade came round the corner and by the book depository, that Lee Oswald took his Mannlicher Carcano on the 6th floor and shot Kennedy. That's the story. Well, everybody has talked about all kinds of aspects of that day. Let me speak about it, because I was actually alive then. I was a kid, but I was alive then. Unlike most, I was sick from school that day and I was at home. Also, we did not have a television at the time. All we had was a radio. And Mom was in the kitchen listening to the radio. Oh, by the way, I should mention, at the time, My dad was a struggling captain in the Air Force, was raising 4 kids and a wife on a single income, which you could do back then. And we were all sitting around, well, Mom and I were sitting around in the living room, or in the kitchen, I mean, because we didn't have a TV. Well, earlier, about a month or two earlier, was the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I remember it distinctly because we were stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We lived off base. Well, when during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Mom had gone into the commissary, which was on base, to go shopping. It was a lot better deal than going to the local shopping center in Dayton. Well, I was with Mom at the time, and we were over there shopping. And while we were shopping, Kennedy pulled the DEFCON. He raised the DEFCON. That meant that we were on full alert. And when we go into full alert, the gate closes for the base. No one in, no one out. So here we are with a station wagon loaded with groceries and kids, stuck on base. And there's this harried-looking second lieutenant who was charged with herding all of these civilian dependents somewhere and get rid of them so they're not in the way. Well, they had an empty bachelor officers' quarters down by the flight line on right field. And they took all of us and shoved us into rooms down there. I remember that because I was standing with my brother in front of the big window that looked out over the flight line as every B-52 in the world without mufflers on took off, one every 15 seconds. It looked like Armageddon. And I can remember my mom standing weeping behind the couch, and we were sitting there walking. I guess we were standing by the window, and we were watching all of this, and the window was just vibrating from all the force of the thing. And both my brother and I thought it was really cool. Mom thought it was really scary. I was 10 years old. Anyway, now a little later they opened up the gate and we went home. So flash forward to November, and I'm standing there with my mom while she's listening to the radio and heard Walter Cronkite say that Kennedy had just been pronounced dead. And she started weeping again. Mom wept a lot. Anyway, I guess a lot of women did back then. Every aspect of this assassination has been discussed over and over and over again. But there's one aspect that only dawned on me recently, a while back. And I thought, how about that? Okay, Oswald supposedly used a Mannlicher Carcano. It used this feeding system on this rifle. Okay. Well, 1963, there were some surplus guns floating around America. But there was one thing there wasn't: surplus ammo. I mean, a lot of guys brought back 8mm Mausers from the war. And here they're sitting there with their 8 Mauser. They couldn't find 8x57 ammo anywhere to be had in the U.S. So a simple trick to turn that old Mauser into something you could use for a hunting rifle, as you sporterize it, and then you'd redo a 30-06 case, neck it out to 8mm, and make a round that was called 8mm 06, which was not a real cylinder, a real cartridge for anything except these modified war surplus bringbacks. It's a kludge, but people like to do it. Okay, where did he get the Mannlicher Carcano ammo? It's a 6.5mm Italian round, and there were very, very few places that supplied it in the U.S. at the time. Well, I looked into where he got the rifle. And where he got the rifle was an ad in the back of an American Rifleman magazine for a surplus house in Chicago, and he ordered it by mail. Matter of fact, him ordering it by mail is one of the reasons that the Gun Control Act of 1968 was put in place, and you couldn't do it anymore. Well, he ordered the Mannlicher Carcano and a .38 pistol, a revolver, the .38 Special. Well, interestingly, Oswald is charged with two things. One was shooting Kennedy, but also the second was that he was in a theater near the book depository building watching a movie. I forget what movie. and came out, and a cop stopped him, and that cop's name was Paul Tibbets. And he shot Tibbets and killed him dead. That's the story, okay? And Tibbets was shot with a .38, okay? Here's one little datum. The 38 rounds loose in Oswald's own pocket that they found on him had been held in one of these, a belt leather holster. They had them on the holsters, or they had them loose like this on the belt. Now, all of the rounds had a little bit of the remnants of leather on them, which only happens if you hold these in one of these. And this is a standard cop issue ammo holder. So obviously Oswald got those from a cop. Now, where did the Mannlicher Carcano come from? Only two stores in the Dallas-Fort Worth area sold Mannlicher Carcano. One of them sold hunting rounds. The owner of the store had bought a bunch of Mannlicher Carcano rounds, surplus, pulled the bullets and put in lead bullets with a modern American sort of powder, and was selling them as hunting rounds, because you can't really use a full metal jacket Spitzer point for a hunting round. So that eliminated that, because Kennedy was shot with a regular standard military load. Well, a little more digging and you find out that the cartridge case that was recovered from the scene had a head stamp for a Winchester, well, it was back then it was Western Cartridge Corporation. Later became Winchester Western, or WW. Well, this is CCC, which is Western Cartridge Corporation of Chicago. Well, so they went back and checked with Western Cartridge Corporation. They said, well, the only Mannlicher Carcano ammo we made about 400,000 rounds of it for a Marine Corps order. So they looked at the Marine Corps. When was that? 1958. Ah, okay. So they were looking for some of that bulk ammo, because this was one of that batch. And all of the ones that were left in the Mannlicher Carcano's magazine were of that batch. Oh, by the way, I should mention 3 things about that Carcano. One, it had a Redfield scope on it, which was misaligned. It had a sticky bolt handle on the thing, and it had a double stage trigger that was really, really hard. I mean, talk about like 10 pounds or so. Not exactly your typical sniper rifle. If Oswald did a shot with that rifle, it was absolute dumb luck. Sorry. So they're going, okay. Went to the Marine Corps and asked them about that ammo, and they said, oh yeah, we ordered that. We gave it to another government department, which they were hush-hush about. CIA. It was CIA. So, only real conclusion, Oswald was a patsy. Kennedy was shot by a CIA assassin, and everybody who had anything to do with it or knew anything about it was eliminated. It is the greatest case of a deep state cover-up of a coup d'etat in history. And they did a grand job of covering it up, because they did it in broad daylight in front of all of us on camera. And we can talk about it all we want, but they did it. We know they did it because we know what Kennedy was trying to do. He was trying to get rid of the FBI and the CIA. He wanted them disrupted and gone. And I agree with him, but and I'm not even a Democrat. Well, anyway, just things I was thinking about today, because today is the 60th anniversary of that shooting. And you're not seeing anything in the media about it. You're not seeing anything anywhere about it. But I think that's a very interesting thing. By the way, I don't have any 6.5 Mannlicher ammo to show you, because this thing was designed, well, it was redesigned in 1915 to shoot it as a substitute standard for the Home Guard, because all the Mannlicher Carcanos were going up to the Austrian front. So, it's a beautiful old world rifle, and that's why I bought it, because I like the look of that bolt back there. It's just, and the trigger guard, it's just gorgeous. But it made me think about this, and it made me think about the Mannlicher Carcano. I don't own one. I've never owned one. By the way, I have visited Dallas. I went to Dealey Plaza. I looked up at the book depository building, looked at the grassy knoll behind me. I ran across the street, went over to the grassy knoll and stood on it, looked at the overpass, looked over the book depository, looked at the little S-curve that comes around that Kennedy was on, just checked everything out, measured angles. I know a little bit about ballistics and checked it out. I call bullshit on the whole story. Just saying. And you, if you know anything about guns, go to Dallas. Do it yourself. I can't convince anybody. I don't plan on convincing anybody. But I looked there and I saw, and I shook my head and said, yep, looks like I know what happened. Somebody shot from Grassy Knoll, and I think a second guy was on the overpass. Just from my own observations, I think that's the way it came down. If anybody was shooting from the 6th floor of the depository, they would have to have been a really, really good shot. And by all measure, I think that Oswald wasn't even on the 6th floor at the time. But that's another story. Well, anyway, that's my Shaggy Dog story for the day. Give me a comment if you know anything about it, or if you if you have your own speculations from other data. But my point is, where'd the ammo come from? And I did a little digging. That's all that I came up with. Oh well. Happy trails.